Hey, what's up everybody? This is Perry from The Rig Rundown. As we approach 10 years of shooting The Rig Rundown with some of the world's most incredible artists and awesome guitar players, I thought it would be cool to dig through our archives to find some of the best gear and moments. In this particular installation, we're going to be taking a look at walls of amps. So if you like it loud, this one's for you.
Talk to me about the architecture that is your amp setup, because like you said in the interview and already before, that each amp is always on, cabs are fully loaded, going fucking mean as hell, but they're EQ'd to complement each other. Like one by itself is not going to do it.
What I have to do every time, you know, every few days we get to the club, and I just stand by and I do one amp at a time.
I heard that at that sound check.
I hear them together, and I turn those two off, and I do another one, and then I hear all three together, and you just set them up as you go, like in different days or different things. Like I said, there's no two sleep shows that are ever alike.
Yeah.
Ever. It's just weird, but.
I was at the one in Iowa and I saw your tech doing that, and he was going by each one, and like one would sound really woolly and full, another one would be high end and fizzy.
Oh, I'm sorry, I kicked your mic, dude.
I'm sure it'll still pick up everything you're gonna play.
Yeah.
But what's the dual darks doing versus the rocker verbs?
Well, I wish I had all dual darks because they're my favorite orange heads.
Really?
But they didn't make a shit ton of them, and I had some. And this is what I got for this, because orange gives me like a backline.
Yeah.
But I kind of rent it from ABC. So, and then I just beat the shit out of all of them, and then they have to be recycled. They have to, you know, and these all need tubes right now. I've been on like...
You're like AC/DC.
Three tours. Yeah, it is like
Angus
that.
just burns through them.
I burn through them like fucking crazy, you know, because I run them hot.
But do you know typically what the dual dark's doing versus what the rocker verb's doing?
Yeah, well that one's a 50, so I have that one kind of saturated on top.
Okay.
That for me is gonna be like kind of my monitor.
Oh, okay.
So that's what I'm gonna hear over the bass and the drums.
Okay.
You can hear high mids and trebles, at least I can, and it's head level.
Okay.
But it's a 50 and I don't have it running so loud that it's gonna, I don't go deaf from this shit everybody else does.
What about
I don't wear earplugs.
What about the rocker verb and the thunder verbs? How are they complementing everything else? Are they like lows and mids, mid-range?
Well, those are the 200s. So the 200s are like my big fucking... It gives it that fucking crazy chunk that throws.
Yeah.
These, my sound man, if you have a 50, a 50 water will break up faster. You know what I mean? And it makes the distortion to it will break up faster, and it throws different. And what he's getting out there, then my sound man can really pull
Ramp it up.
Yeah. So.
Cool. And yeah, there's no dummy caps. These are all live. And you're not really, I know that you probably got gain stages here, but the amps themselves are just pushing volume.
Yeah.
You're just getting
Angus. It is
wall of
AC/DC.
sound.
That's what I go for. I go, dude, AC/DC tone. You See?
I can feel it.
Yeah, it makes it so you can feel it, but it's not uncontrollable feedback. I can walk everywhere. Here we go, you know, and I really don't. I keep it in control, you know what I mean?
I think we should jump into amps.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so the stage is totally clean. There's no amps up there. So how do you, and that's an aesthetic decision, right?
I can't talk about that. No, man, so the band decided they put so much into this imagery connection to their show.
Sure.
For each song, which other bands, let's say, don't do it that much.
Yeah.
These guys want to present it in an evening of experience. I mean, really. So they were like, we want to see as much art and as much association that interprets the song. And you can't do that with the Marshalls going across or the Voxes.
Sure.
So let's remove them and see how it sounds. Let's do it, right? So they came to the conclusion that Dallas would have all the amps down in my area, right? Great. But I never have any visitors.
I bet that does get loud.
Oh man, it's so loud. And my tuners, especially on the hollow bodies, the Rickies, the Walnuts, the Gretsch, you know, all that. Any hollow body at the casinos, the tuner is going, what you know.
Sure.
So it's a real thing. I have a sensitive, I have a snart on the headstock.
Yeah.
I got my machines, my Petersons, and I just do it all, and it's blaring down here.
Yeah.
Blaring.
Got it.
And it's tough for the monitor mixer. He's down here too, right? Totally not on the side. It's totally invisual. He's relying on his monitor, and Edge can talk to him in his headpiece. But anyway, so they're all behind this padded area to try to cut down on the ambience, delivering.
I see some wonderful vintage Fender Tweeds.
Every amp that he uses 5 amplifiers in the show, all combos, right?
Really?
Now the cool thing to do was that when they did the Spider-Man thing on Broadway, there wasn't any real estate on that stage, so he said, what I use mainly in these songs? I said, deluxe. So we had Fender chop ahead, and put the 112 in a cabinet, and a mic on it, and it couldn't be bleeding into a case, right? But he wants to hear the wood. He wants to hear the wood he wants this equation.
Yeah.
As you well know, that chassis and this wood, the Tolex, everything is part of the equation per combo amp, per the old ones, right? This is a Harvard. So these out here are my spares. If things hit the fan, and they're 1956, 1959,
right.
Man. Something's going to happen,
Sure,
right? They're
yeah.
not meant for 12 hours a day. They're really not. Danny Lanois gave Edge this amp. He used it as a pedal steel.
Right.
Danny did.
When
right?
we did a rundown on
right, man.
on Lanois, he was running.
It's a 10-inch,
Wow.
10 watts, right? The deluxes are usually 12 to 15, and anyway, these are my spares, and his main amp. Besides the Vox is the Edge Fender Deluxe, which
really?
is and I got it up on stage.
Great.
He's got one back here. They're hand wired as well, 12 watt Blue Alnico Jensen. He loves that speaker. He likes the balance of the punch and the jangle.
So he's trying to kind of duplicate that vintage tone, but
Yes.
in a new.
Yes.
How close is it?
I'll tell you, they're hand wired. So individually, you put 3 together, and you're going to have to dig which one you want.
Just like a vintage amp,
but
yeah.
what's also so unique about versus this 58 or 59 is the Edge amp. You can hit it with that 12 string, with a humbucker, single coil, big fuzz, neck pickup, Gretsch lead, whatever, and that amp will react. It won't get lost. You try to do that with one of these old deluxes, which is way cool, especially with the Intellis,
Yeah.
You're not going to. But he kept on it about the rectifier, about the 12A X7 in the first preamp part instead of an AY7. The result is this it hits no matter what source he hits it with, he gets a desired some clarity. Instead of just boom,
Okay, so what volume? These old ones run to 12, right?
I
think the volume runs to 12.
Yes.
Where do you usually put the volume on?
3.
That's Dave Cobb.
Check
said
it
the
out.
same thing in his rundown. He said the tweeds, you don't want to bring them above 3.
I've only worked with tweeds a few times with the artists I've worked with, but he's showing me back it down. We're gonna let it work here. This is where we're gonna let the tone work here. Not oh man, we give a little heat, and you have to put those EQs exactly. I do every gig.
Right.
And he will come down. He has come off the stage sometimes where, maybe it's the monitors that I want to know.
Right.
He doesn't do, I'll be good for the next 20 songs. He comes down into here.
Yeah.
While he's playing, check the EQ, okay, go back up, but it's
Okay,
crazy stuff,
So
man.
what all is stacked up back there? How many amps are you, or can you
Yeah, okay.
Do you remember them?
Yeah, the order of events is he had a Vox one from his 60s days.
The 64?
Yeah, gray panel.
Yeah, the 64 AC3, I think was his
top boost.
Top
Had
boost.
to have the top boost.
Okay.
And he took this amp. This made all the song, all the big hits. Bullet,
Cool.
With or Without You, all the big ones. That Vox, we called it Vox 1. And then
still tour with that
and
amp?
then it began being challenged after 12 hours a day, and in the middle of the gig. And
Yeah.
we'd have big trouble because no matter what I put up, which he'd signed off on, these other spares, you can see his body language. Yeah. Yeah. So
It's
I
a
needed something,
54-year-old
right, man?
amp.
And I said, Edge, let's go to Vox and see if they can make a present day. He didn't want one off the shelf. So we flew those guys in, David Clark, Ian Dodgett, these guys from, it's called Milton Keynes in London. You know, that's where Vox is based, even though it's a Japanese company. And they came in and they brought a crew, and this guy filmed the chassis. He pulled it out, filmed the chassis of that Vox, and he says, okay, do you know what you have here? And I was like, what? He says, wherever you guys toured when you guys were young, whenever something was wrong, you just send it to Joe Schmo's guitar shop.
Sure.
And the guy would go, I don't have that one exactly. He said, this thing's got Marshall capacitors. It's got all kinds of different, but the end result is this compressed, beautiful jangle sound. Streets with No Name, so haven't found. So anyway, Vox came and let us, and they sent five, six of them, and kept going. And he go, no, it's not. Plug it into the other one. No, that's not it. And finally, there's two back here. One that he has more weight in. It's called Vox 2, and the other is the jangly. It's in 90% of the Songs of Experience songs.
Wow.
And so that's first in line. And just with the 57. He doesn't, you know.
Are you off access or
right on the cloth. Right on the cloth,
okay.
man. And he'll ask me even 30 years ago, is that the same microphone as all the last shows?
Yeah.
You sure? And their label. I mean, he's that one. However that gets fatigued going down the road, gig after gig, he wants that mic. He's put a star where it goes on the cloth.
Yeah.
Right? Not over here, not over here. It is in the center. No. He listens, plays and listens, and moves the mic around.
Wow.
I mean, he's amazing.
That's
he
great.
really is, John. So we got two Voxes. The next thing is his Fender one, his Edge Fender Deluxe. That's on probably 70% of the show, maybe 85% of the show. Any big crunch sound, and then he does a blend of that with the Bradshaw computers, with the switchers, where he blends in the Vox. He set the level on the Fender and the Vox so they can work together. You have to do a big phasing check all the time.
Oh, I imagine.
5 amps, you don't just assume. Because
Right.
you'll go, man, turn up the Harvard, and we'll go, turn up the Harvard. Next thing you know, it's not in phase. Whatever AC grounding lifts would have to be done, right? So
that's always kind of a mystery.
all of this, man.
Yeah.
You get a guitarist that use combination amplifiers, combos.
So are you doing like a wet dry thing?
No. Everything is front end before the amps. It's just his rack is a massive effects pedal. That he's completely dialed in. So,
wow.
there's no, we got wet going over here in the center, and he's doing some splash.
Okay, so start to finish, you got the
Two Voxes.
Two Voxes.
Fender, his new Edge Fender Deluxe amp, right?
Okay.
And then is one of these, it's a 58 in there, and we call that Fender 2. He's barely got any volume coming out of that. Little and quite a bit of tone, so that would never be on its own in a show. He'd never select, but that's in the combination of two and three sounds, like Be Beautiful Day, da 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 da, all that. He'll have that Fender 2 come. We call that Fender 2, and then the last is the Harvard. That is like this mid-range. You want to go, if you plug into it, you go, but he's gone beyond that. He's thought of, I'm going to use that with a big Vox 2. I want a little umph, a little punch, but I don't want to lose the clarity or the jangle. Sure. He's amazing.
Okay, so very cool. That covers your basic guitars, and then amp-wise, you're running the Friedmans. Looks like you're carrying 3.
Friedman basically. He I don't know. I was using another amp. Do I have to be looking that way?
No, we're fine.
Okay. I was using another amp. I won't even mention what, but and I was happy with it. I thought this works fine. It does what I want it to do. And Friedman, who loves the new album, kept trying to get a hold of me and saying, no, I want to build you an amp you want.
Yeah.
I said, well, the one I'm using is fine. And he kept coming after me, and finally he just sent me ahead, and I said, fine. I think it was the last day of rehearsal.
Yeah.
And I just said, fine,
Begrudgingly plugged it in.
Check your shit out. Plugged it in and went, oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's what I've been missing. And I think it's for me, it's a wonderful amp. And this one's the small box, and based off of Plexi. I mean, it's hard to
Which back in the
go
day, that
wrong.
was totally your thing.
Yeah,
Plexi
it's
did.
hard to go wrong with Plexi. And it has 2 channels, and he asked me what I would like for my own, and he built this in like 3 days. I can't believe he did
God.
it. He said, what color do you want? I said, red. He said, what do you want on the front? I said, my symbol. See, Jake Healy, can you see that?
Oh, that's great.
Can you see that?
That is very cool.
And I said, first channel, I love the first channel on this. Second channel, he's going more for the brown sound, and that's not really my deal. So he changed the settings on the second channel, and so far it's worked. I haven't plugged into anything else since. I did plug into RJS. I know him, Robert. He's in Denver, and he gave me his head, and it's a really good sounding amp. I gotta say, it is a good sounding amp.
Sure.
And but right now I'm very happy with Friedman.
Now, so basically running this one today anyway.
Today,
and then
yeah.
This is the backup, just in case.
This is for bigger stages. This is this is a smaller place.
Yeah.
Last one we played was a warehouse.
Sure.
With a stage maybe twice this size.
So you can really unleash hell.
So that's where the 100 where the 100 comes out. And and actually this one has a 50 and 100 watt switch in it. But
oh, that's great.
But so I'm not tempted. Because I've done that before.
Right.
Like playing a small place like this, 50 will work.
Yeah.
And then halfway through I'll look at Tyler. And I say, let's go hundo. And then I blow everybody away.
Right.
You know,
right.
so this is to reduce temptation. I'll just
Sure.
plug into the 50.
You yeah, that's good. That's good. And so you're running into these cabs or these.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
As you can see, they're black circle cabs.
Yeah.
Obelisk.
Mystery
No.
red. Mystery
They're
red. Black.
EVH. They're EVH cabs. You know.
No, they sound killer, man.
They do. And they got one has 25 watt greenbacks, one has 20 watt greenbacks. I like both of them.
Yeah.
Mainly I couldn't make up my mind which one I like better.
Sure.
So I loaded one with each. And half the time there's a monitor man over there.
Yeah.
And I don't want to kill him with the 25s.
Yeah.
20s are more compressed. But I don't mind killing the singer with a 25.
No.
So I point that one there. And I like doing the V. And I don't think I'm the only guy, because I've asked other people. I don't like the sound coming directly.
Sure.
You know, most guitar players set up like this, and I don't like it. I'd always edge over to the side.
Yeah.
And then that sounds great.
Right.
So I said, fuck it, why not? I'll stand here. And now they're both going to the side.
Yeah.
And to me, that sounds really good.
Well,
and it looks cool.
And it's probably actually a more honest representation because you don't really know what a cab sounds like until you're like 15 feet away from it anyway. And I think that peripheral thing probably gives you more of that, sensation. That's cool. And
my silhouette looks really cool right now.
It does look pretty
as
epic.
does Whitey's.
Right. That's
I
great.
stepped beyond the line.
I guess we'll start with the amps. Does that sound
Okay,
reasonable?
yeah.
Well, earlier we were talking about which one you would save if you had to just kind of rescue one, and the one you were kind of leaning toward, although that's a terrible thought, of course, was this orange over here.
Yeah.
So why don't we talk about this amp first?
I got this amp from a buddy who got it at a guitar show back in maybe 2000, so 18, 19 years ago. And it's a 68 orange that was originally wrapped in the black Tolex. And it sounds ferocious. It's got a huge sound and a lot of bottom. And I use it primarily as a layering amp. So if we've got the main left and right guitars that are all, big and blown out and distorted, then this guy comes in down the center, much cleaner tone. But really, you can really pick out all the notes and the clarity that it provides.
Yeah, so even though it's in a new context, that's the kind of thing that Peter Green was plugged into back in the day.
Yeah. I mean, you have to turn it up so loud to get it to distort.
Yep.
That if you just turn it up a little bit, it'll just barely distort, but it adds a clean bottom end to the riffs that just makes the riffs just poke right in your face.
It's great. And to your knowledge, is it all original at this point, or have you?
It had a master volume mod on it when I bought it.
Okay.
So somebody was trying to make it be able to break up
Yeah.
you know, more at lower volumes, but it didn't work.
Okay.
It's a beast. It's so loud.
Well, where do you want to go from there? I mean, you've got these two great Laneys here too. I mean, if we do it chronologically, I guess we can say
Yep.
the '60s for a while.
Again, I got these from a buddy of mine that used to go to guitar shows in Los Angeles all the time, and he would call me up and be like, "Yo, Nick, there's these Laney clips down here, and you know, this is what they want," and I'd be like, "Cool, get them." And this is a 60 watt, and this is a 100 watt, and I think it's Laney's version of a Marshall Plexi at the time.
Yeah, which is pretty unusual.
Yeah, and they're really, really loud, but they have this clip circuit on them, and they both have it, and it's like a super, super fuzz, almost like a super fuzz pedal. So you can click that in, and you can add the volume of it into your dry tone, and it just gets really, really blown out, like the band Fu Manchu. It gets like that type of guitar sound.
Okay.
And Sabbath. The story that I heard is Tommy Iommi used these on a couple Sabbath albums, you know, so, but they're great. They're really different. They've got a character unlike any of these other amps.
Yeah, well, they really look beautiful, and I'm sure they sound beautiful as well.
Yeah, they sound great.
Should we go that way
Sure.
and then come back? And
This is a 30 watt high watt, and this was high watt's attempt to make like an AC30 type amp,
Okay.
type head. And this particular model of these 30 watt heads were built by Selmer, because Selmer, high watt changed ownership a bunch of times in the mid 70s and 80s, and the Selmer company made these.
okay. Now, since it's a Selmer thing, does it have a lot of headroom?
It's got a lot of headroom, and it distorts at a nice low volume. Like, you know, you can see here, you know, the volume is around 1 o'clock and the master volume is around 9 o'clock, and that sounds like a jangly AC30.
Oh, cool.
It's a really cool sounding head.
Cool. Now, do you have a cabinet you would prefer to run that through typically?
I put them through all these. It's always different. You know, it depends on the vibe of the song and what guitar is being used, and you know, that Marshall basket weave is a great combination with that Laney because it's not too high gain.
And does that still have 25 watt greenbacks in it?
Yeah, it's got 25 watt greenbacks,
Cool.
so they distort nice and easy.
Cool.
And then like the white Marshall over there has 75s in it.
Okay.
So then you can really open it up. I'd use the orange through the white Marshall.
Well, since we're looking over this way, maybe we should talk about the Marshall over here and also about the Alex Lifeson signature head.
This black Marshall is a 2550, which is a black cased version of a Silver Jubilee that they put out in the late 80s.
Cool.
And you know, the Silver Jubilee is kind of famous because it's the slash head.
Yes.
That's what he used on the early Guns records, and it's just got that amazing tone. And I bought this at a little guitar store in Los Angeles, and I don't even remember the name, because I couldn't afford a Silver Jubilee because they're super expensive.
Yes.
And they hadn't been reissued at the time. So I got a lot of these amps in the late 90s, early 2000s, kind of when I was starting my, you know, collection of amps and guitars to use on records, you know, because a lot of dudes in bands don't have a lot of variety.
Right.
They've got kind of, you know, their touring guitar and their touring amp, and they might have some stuff at home or whatever, but you know, for making records, it's like you get all these sound ideas and you wish you had, you know, an SG and a 2550 and a basket weave with 25s in it. So
Yes.
it just kind of helps create all the layers of sound for the guitar. But this is a great head. It sounds great. And then on top of it, when I worked with Rush, we used this head a bunch on the Snakes and Arrows record. And Alex loved it, you know, which I couldn't believe because I'm like, well, you're Alex Lifeson, you must have thousands of heads. And he didn't.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So we ended up.
He's Alex Lifeson. He
I
must have
know,
thousands
they
of heads.
sold all their stuff. So we ended up using that head a bunch on the record. And then a year or so later, he came out with, I guess, a Canadian company made a custom Alex head, and they called it Lurkst. And it's kind of a version of this. So it's just another version of a kick-ass sounding Marshall.
Yeah, and kind of another, something else in emulation of the Silver Jubilee.
Yeah, it's just another flavor.
Yep.
You know?
Cool. I know we skipped a couple over there too. Do you want to go to the floor and work our way back, or start? Let's go over here to the Masco.
Okay. The little Masco guy is a little, 8-watt amp.
Yep.
That I found at some music store somewhere.
Now, is that
And
from the 40s? It looks like
Yeah,
the kind
it's
of thing that would come with a lap steel or something.
Yeah, it's from the
back then.
40s, and even if you look at it, it's got like two tubes and
Yes.
a transformer and a couple wires and like an 8-inch speaker.
That's
I don't know
awesome.
if you guys can see that. But it's really cool. It's got, one setting on.
Yep. And when you crank it all the way up, does it break up like a bullseye? Yeah.
Or you can do it super clean, low volume, and crank the mic up really loud and get nice pure tone. And then under the Masco is an 18-watt Marshall, hand-wired Marshall that actually got a guitar center, maybe like 2005, when they reissued their hand-wired series of amps.
Okay.
And it sounds fantastic. Again, one setting, on and all the way up. It sounds fantastic. And underneath it is a 1963 Vox AC30 that is just the dream. British, clean, Tom Petty, Oasis, every UK band from the 60s sound.
Well, I know when we did the interview for the magazine in, I think it was 2016, you talked about that amp like a chef describing like some amazing buttery 4-course meal.
It's like, you plug an ES335 into that amp and turn it up, almost all the way, and it's just pure magic tone. And one of the speakers has been reconed. One of them's all original, and one of them's been reconed. So there's kind of a nice loose, blown out speaker, and then there's a nice tight one.
Oh, cool.
So it's cool to mic them both and mix them together, or just pick one of them and go.
Nice.
Yeah. And then this down here is a diesel Herbert that is mind-bending amounts of gain and tone and just sheer sizzle. And I love that amp a lot. And I got I've got a lot of old amps, and recently I kind of took a bunch of old amps that I wasn't really using anymore for whatever reasons, and I traded them for a couple new amps. And I got this Friedman, which is the Steve Stevens model.
Ah, cool.
And it sounds fantastic. And I traded some stuff for that Bogner Ecstasy right there, which, if any of you guys have messed with the Bogner Ecstasy, it's totally insane. You can get 3 or 4 completely different sounds out of that amp. Everything from just total, modern rock high gain to put it in plexi mode and you're fucking Jimi Hendrix all of a sudden. It sounds fantastic.
Cool. And then you've got this old Supra down here.
Then I've got
60s?
Yeah, this is an old, I believe, 64, 65 Supro that, again, I think I found it in some guitar store, and it sounds great. It's all original, and it looks totally gnarly on the inside.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, look at it.
Yep.
And I think that's a 15. The
Yes.
speaker.
Yeah. Which allegedly is the speaker that Page used when he was
Yeah.
playing through the...
I mean, this thing sounds insane. Again, kind of like the big orange over there. This orange, not really so much of a main tone per se, but a layering tone. Like, do a track with the Marshall or the Ecstasy or the Friedman, and then double it with that.
Cool. Just so people can have a picture in their mind, you mentioned that you recently completed a Korn record, you did a Hailstorm record here.
Mm-hmm.
Were any of these heads involved, and if so, do you remember which ones might have been used in
We
some of
used
the sessions?
all of these heads. Yeah.
Awesome.
I don't think we used this one on the Korn album.
Okay.
But we used all the rest of these on Korn.
And probably the Diesel too, I would guess.
Oh,
right?
yeah. We used all of them.
Awesome.
And on Hailstorm, we used every single one of these.
That's great.
Yeah.
I mean, talk about varied tone, that's perfect.
They
It's a
all get
giant
used.
tone menu.
Yeah, and they always sound different. It's like if I'm playing a guitar track on a record through any of these combinations, and then you come in and play, it's going to sound. It's that whole thing of everybody plays different.
Yep.
It's going to sound different.
Yep.
It's true, And even though I'm using a lot of the same amps, kind of over and over, it's never the same settings.
So what exactly are you running?
Well, these amplifiers, some of them don't look on, but they actually are on. Yeah, that's on. The pilot lights go out on these mid-show. That's actually on today. These are 2 brand new Fender Joe Bonamassa high-powered 80-watt twins. And they came out this year, and we've had really good success with them. And they're a really accurate, great reissue of that iconic high-powered twin.
Right. Isn't that Keith Richards' thing? Doesn't he?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, Keith Richards, Neil Young had one.
Sure.
Robbie Robertson used one in the last
Yeah.
waltz. You'd be surprised with a high-powered twin how many of your favorite guitar sounds kind of start there.
Yeah.
And really, a Super Lead Marshall was derived from this circuit. And in my opinion, it was the best overall amplifier Leo came up with, especially in the Tweed era, because it really did everything. It distorted well, harmonically, it would clean up, and they're really, really great amps. And Stan Cody over at Fender really did a wonderful job reverse engineering these. And we spent over a year and a half developing them, and they finally came out. And you know, I have old ones that I used to use and retired those, and these sound to my ears just as good for what I'm using them for. Because I turn them, right now, because it's the end of the tour and I'm deaf, these things are up to like 11 now. We're almost all the way up.
Wow. Which on smaller Tweeds, above 3 they just like kind of fart out and are almost, to me, like almost unusable above.
Right, because that's a combination of the speaker and the amp.
Right.
Like the part of the amplifier collapsing is the Alnico Jensen type of speaker. That's intrinsic with, unless you use a higher wattage speaker. These have Celestion 85 watt speakers in there. So that's why they stay tight.
Yeah,
at this
good call.
And I nicked that idea, again, not having an original thought in my life. I was given a tour of Keith Richards' rig, and he had Celestions in one of the Tweed Twins. And I go, that makes a lot of sense, because perceived volume, you get more perceived volume out of a more efficient speaker.
Yeah.
And it kind of breaks up, and the bottom end stays round, and it doesn't do that Neil Young thing, where it collapses and it's that fuzzy thing.
Right, there's definition to every.
There's definition, and that's one of the things I try to achieve is definition throughout the notes. When you hear when you strike the chord. And it's the transition between the low string wound and the upper strings, which are not wound. So you want it harmonically to just transition in a nice even way, because a lot of times some amplifiers or some rigs, it's nice and round down here, and then it gets really thin and buzzy as you go up to the high string. So it stays even harmonically, and that's what the Celestions and a few other things the tricks that I do. It's not really tricks. I just turn the amp. You just keep twisting dials until it works, and it's mid stacking, and it's a whole other kind of concept. And then these other two amplifiers. Oh my God, here we go with the hate. Let's start with the brown cabinet. That cabinet used to belong to Christopher Cross.
Really?
Yeah. And he's a super nice guy.
Yeah.
He gets typecast for that.
Yeah.
He's a great musician, great singer, great songwriter. And Eric Johnson played in his band. And Christopher Cross had one hell of a Dumble rig when he was when he was out touring in the 70s and 80s.
He had the biggest album imaginable.
Yeah, and he's a wonderful guy and a wonderful player. And this is a Dumble built cabinet, probably circa 1980.
Wow. His rig.
That was his, it's his cabinet.
Yeah, his cab. Wow.
And it had an EV speaker, and now it has a Celestion. And the bass ports were painted black cardboard cutouts from wrapping paper.
Ooh, classy.
Ever want to know what you get for all that money, folks? There you go.
Yeah.
This amp here is a 1980 Overdrive Special.
Wow.
That has a Celestion 85 watt speaker. These are the ones that we use in the Twins, the JB ones. And originally came with an EV, sounded awful.
Sure.
The amp sounded awful with the EV. I was like, I didn't want my money back. Put a Celestion in it, it sounds great.
Huh.
And it has this, I don't know, it's like a spa or a shower stall for your microphone. It's like a built-in, I don't know what these things do. I don't know why, I don't care. It just looks fancy.
Yeah. Very fancy.
It looks expensive. It's just this what an arch with some foam in it, and it looks expensive.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's probably what they're using out the front. This amp here is black suede 1984.
Wow.
50 watt. Both of these are 50 watt overdrive specials. I've gone back and forth with the 50s and the 100s. I like the 50 watters. They do something different. I like them. And this.
And you said that's your Celestion as well?
They're both Celestion. They're all Celestions. We had We had mismatched EVs, blah. Finally, we just put all the speakers in. And that's the classic Dumble look with the Vox grill and the black face. And that's mic'd too. I don't know who's listening to that. I'm not. I hope they are. Well, I don't care. This is the amp I listen to on stage. And that's the amp that they kind of blend. I would assume it's the two that they blend out the front. And it's all just mono, and with the difference between the Dumbles and the Twins are like this. So when you just listen to the Dumbles, they're kind of tubby and they kind of have this really nice low mid articulation to them.
Yeah.
You hear all the chord, but it's not all of the sound. And then the Twins, I think this is standby. If not, whatever.
Well, it's amazing when everything's off.
The Twins are the afterburners. So
Yeah.
this is the Twins. I used to use 4 Twins. I think you can still do that too. It's fine. That's the afterburners. And I'm giving away my secret because you can now hear you really hear the chorus.
Wow.
So then you put it all together and you blend the two out the front. And what it is if you look at a 31 band EQ, it's covering all that hump, that low mid and it rolls off at the top and it rolls off at the bottom. And that's where the big thick guitar sound lies. It's not in the extremes. It's not in the super lows and super highs. Super lows, kick drum, whales communicate in those frequencies.
Right.
Super high, birds, cymbals.
Yeah.
So what you want to do is you want to be in a specific range. Yeah. And it all works for Les Pauls.
God.
So you get the articulation on the front pickup and you get the blend in the middle, And there you go. And that's the trick with the amps.
God, that
Now ask
sounds...
me to talk about the elephant in the room.
Okay. Well, before we get to that, do you ever worry about phase issues with running multiple? I mean,
I use this. Well, you can get a shot of it later. I use a couple of things. I use the Layla P split, which is wonderful.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah. I've heard of those.
It's passive, doesn't require power, and it's got phase and earth or ground. And you just keep hitting buttons until you get the most bass and the least amount of buzz.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Perfect.
And they're great. And I also use a TC chorus pedal to split everything so that's why you kind of hear this kind of, you're like, where's the chorusing coming from? It's from the TC.
You know, the chorusing though is so subtle.
It just
if you didn't mention it, I wouldn't even suspect it.
It just tightens up the bottom end a little bit. I do notice it when it's off, but I don't notice it when it's on. It just tightens up the bottom end, which is, there's something about it. And then there's a little power thing that we have, not little, but it's something I nicked from you guys. Because I also watch the rig rundown.
Hey.
Like I'm not, I'm like Cy Sperling of the guitar. I'm like not only a client and a fan.
So here we are over by the amps, and 4 heads are obviously better than 1. So, but why don't we start with that one? Why don't we start with the 2-rock?
Well, this is a brand new 2-rock they have called the Traditional Clean, and I actually use that for my dirty rhythm sound. Yeah, it's really cool. I just set it for kind of a little bit of a crunch thing, like a Keith Richards type, little bit of distorted kind of sound. And that goes into a Marshall cabinet as well over there. It's a 16-ohm Marshall cabinet with 30-watt Celestians.
Okay.
These 2 guys are just old blackface twins that I put in a piggyback cabinet.
Nice.
And they go into a stereo Marshall cab with 4 EVL 12-inch speakers. 2 for each twin, so they're in stereo, and then I stereo mic that. And that'll be, it's all 3 setups, there's only one setup on at a time. It's either the stereo clean or the the 2-rock for Dirty Rhythm.
Okay.
And then
are these two reissues essentially, the twins?
No, they're like, I don't know, 66 or something.
Oh, okay.
Something
Like right
that.
around transition era.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
And
Do you change the tubes out? Anything different in these? Or?
Bill Webb in Austin works on them. They're he just dials them up, biases them, and puts tubes in them and stuff. Yeah, that's about it. They're pretty much stock, except if they need a new, cab job or whatever.
Yeah. Cool. Well, why don't we move into the Marshalls?
And then the other tone is the main lead tone, which is it's either a 50-watt or a 100-watt Marshall.
Okay.
And they both, either of those will go into yet another Marshall cabinet with Celestion speakers over there.
Now, are these both early 70s heads, or?
They're both 69s,
they're both 69, okay.
Yeah,
Cool.
I think so, 68 or 69, something like that, yeah.
And it's a 50 and 100.
Yeah.
Great. And those are stock, I assume, as well?
They are. They're pretty much totally stock, just been biased up and turned on 10.
Cool.
That's about it.
Now, for your basic tone, are you running multiple amps? How is the switching setup for these?
Well, it's either the two twins.
Okay.
I have two sets of rhythm sounds. So I have a master AB that either selects rhythm or lead,
Okay.
and this is the lead. When I select over to the rhythm, I have then yet another AB that chooses two different rhythms, either a clean rhythm or a dirty rhythm.
Okay.
The clean rhythm is the two twins.
Okay.
The dirty rhythm is the 2-rock.
The 2-rock.
Yeah.
And then this is your lead amp, the
Yeah,
Marshall.
yeah.
Cool. Cool. And the cabs, do you know anything about their history?
Well, I think that one's like a 70 or so, and I think that one's a 69 or something like
Cool.
that.
And do they still have their old greenbacks in them too?
This one has the 30 watts in it. That's got 80 watt Celestians in it, that one over there, from the 80s. Yeah.
Cool. But this is primarily where we're hearing your lead tone come from.
Well, this head it actually is going into that cabinet.
Okay,
and
great.
The 2-rock is going into there. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. And you guys are pretty much all playing Mesa, right?
Yeah, these are all it's all Mesa backline, and they're custom covered in white.
These are
and
baller.
yeah, and the grills are
So
like
cool.
Our new record called In Spades.
Oh,
and yeah, that one's called a Royal Atlantic.
100 watts?
100 watts. Yeah, I have it set to EL 34s.
Oh, is it switchable?
Yeah, you can kind of just put 6L6s in it or EL 34s, and the EL 34s work out well for me. And
Sure.
Interesting, I do the Jeff Beck trick. If you look, the bass is all the way off and the mids are all the way on. And then
All
the
the way
treble
up,
is,
huh?
yeah. So the mids are like, 10 or whatever.
I'm not familiar with that trick. What does that do? Does that somehow change the
Well, 412 has so much bass coming out of it anyway.
Sure.
And I'm right next to John Curley. There's so much bass, so it's like I want to be able to cut through. All that bass would just kind of muddy up the low end anyway, so I just kind of figure out where I can fit sonically. So, yeah, and if you play it, has plenty of low end.
That's more low end than you would ever need for a show. That's wild.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
the mids give it kind of like a push.
Like a nice little punch in the
Yeah. So,
Right on, man. Well, do you think the EL34s give it more of a Britishy kind of sound, or are you going for that?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah,
Cool,
with
just
the
rock and
closed
roll
412. Everyone else has open back, so it's a 12. That's a closed back.
Maybe that has something to do with the bass response of the cab.
I think so.
Probably. Speaking of bulletproof, looks like these Suns have been to hell and back.
They're actually in pretty good shape. I
Yeah.
just had them revamped recently.
What? Do you know what year?
79s.
79s.
Solid
Way
state.
cool.
There's no tubes in this setup at all.
At all.
The best part is a lot of people think that these guitars are, they're all high-endy. They're all mid-range and honky sounding. They're not at all.
Really?
Not
Yeah,
the
yeah. So,
least. And so then people freak out that these aren't tube amps. You know, it's just like,
sounds good to
whatever.
you. It sounds good to you right
Yeah,
now.
they sound great.
Yeah.
People don't. The thing is I've AB'd, and I can't get the same kind of thing with the regular setup. And anybody that I know, like a guitar player from Honky, who also plays in Down, they toured with us, and he was like, I don't know if I could use these. But once he tried it, because he's used to Marshalls and stuff like that, once he tried it, he was like, oh my God, these sound amazing. Once you can get past that mental block
Of there's no tubes
of
in it.
aluminum and no tubes, then
Do you record with these?
Oh, I record with everything. I got a bunch of different amps though.
Yeah.
So
Sure.
A few.
You guys cover a whole lot of sounds.
Bunch of different guitars, bunch of different amps. This is what I use live. It's really reliable. Crown power amps or a QSC. But you use the
QSC.
Crown tonight. This is a redundant over here.
Gotcha, just a backup. Yeah.
Yep.
Cool. And then, so these cabs are different than the last time, but you're still running a similar configuration. You got a couple of 15s and a couple of 12s, right?
Actually, what I'm using this time, I don't know any other guitar players doing this. Two 15s in this cabinet, 115 and 112 in that cabinet.
Weird. That's awesome.
So I'm using 3 15s and 1 12 for guitar.
Are the 15s to compensate at all for like, maybe like, you know, some people would argue that a tube amp has a little more like bottom or more rumble? No, not at
I
all?
would say no, I like the 15 sound.
Yeah.
They're way more, you know, pounding sounding. Most people can't deal with it until they try it.
You gotta feel it, huh?
15s are like one of the most underappreciated guitar speakers that there is. I don't know why more people don't use it, because they can't get. It's like what Kevin talks about, the guy Kevin Burkett that makes these guitars. He goes, once people can get past that it's metal, then they love them.
If you go out in space, you take a spaceship, you go out in space. There's only 2 man-made objects you can actually see from outer space. One is the Wall of China. One is the Yngwie Malmsteen Wall of Marshalls. And today, we're gracing the stage with 9 stacks with 3 heads on each one, except for one that has 5. And then over there a little bit. I think we're bringing, on this tour, we're bringing 22 cabinets and 36 amps or something like this. But here, of course, this is the vintage heads, the Mark IIs, and as you can see, like Mark II is all vintage. And see, then all of a sudden, wow, look at that.
It's your new idea.
Yeah, but not only that, look at these.
So
all of these are filled with 75 selections. And these, if I can go in the back here, I'll show you something. Okay. I like to keep it clean in the front, so the front is like exactly like a vintage head. On the back, here you have a switch. You can switch it from 50 to 100. In other words, you can have two power tubes or 4 power tubes. This is not a master volume. This is what's called, I don't know what to call it really, but what it does is that it turns the volume down after the power tubes, okay? But as you can see, I have it all the way up. I have them all the way up.
And you're running those at 50 watts?
I'm running one on 50, one on 100 right now. But I might just switch it and make it all like 12 100s if I feel like it. Yeah, so, and I have overdrive if I want. I have a gate if I want. I have reverb, digital reverb inside if I want. I don't use them, but I have them. And they're extremely useful if you're in a smaller place. You don't want to bring all your pedals and stuff like this. And as you can see, Dr. Marshall, God bless him, and me. It's fantastic. I'm very happy about that.
Well, it's like the elephant in the room, but it's not that. It's like 3 huge stacks in the room. And so let's talk about these. I know that these haven't changed unless maybe you got different heads. But the last time we talked, you had the 2 super leads and the DR103. Are these the same ones that you've been using for long?
Yeah.
For the longest time?
Yep. Yeah, I've been using these 2 since the early 90s. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And then this one I got more recently. I started using a high watt also, yeah.
And then just off the slide of the camera is the Fender. Is that like a monitor, or is that also being fed your signal?
Yeah, it's just another element, you know. It's just like each tone kind of mixes together into, you know, the Twins got the more high end for, you know, I think the sound man likes it for leads and stuff. But I just like the blend of them all together, you know. It's just like there's Marshalls have more low end, and then the high watt is a little more high end, and the Fender has a lot more high end.
Yeah, okay.
So all together, it sounds cool to me.
So, just so we can be clear, everyone's obviously wants to know is like, so all 4 on at the same time, all double cabs are on live. And do you have any sound you wear like in your monitors or earplugs or anything?
I wear earplugs.
Yeah.
I've always worn earplugs.
It's probably a smart idea.
Yeah. Because I always like just the feeling of the sound, you know. So, I mean, Murph playing cymbals, you need earplugs anyway, so it's just like, we've always been too loud not to have earplugs. You know?
I remember reading you guys, like that was kind of the mission statement of the band, was to be loud.
Yeah.
And so it's true. I mean, I'm standing behind some stacks, or in front of some stacks, I should say.
And I'm also, that's how I sing, is now with earplugs. I hear myself in my head with the earplugs in, you know, like, so I don't need monitors really or anything. Like today we recorded at Jack White's studio and I didn't use any monitors. I just sang in the room with everybody and I can hear it because I have earplugs in.
And did you take your, were you taking, because it's just down the street, did you take your full setup down there, or did they have something set up for you
They had
guys?
some stuff there. I brought one amp, but then they had a lot of amps too.
Yeah, I imagine.
And we were recording, you didn't have to be
I guess
quite as loud, yeah. But it still was too loud. He was having trouble getting my vocals above everything.